Congratulations, friends! Today we will plunge into the history of the artist, whose paintings once adorned the imperial palaces, and his name was synonymous with academic art of the 19th century. This is Alexandre Cabanel, a man who conquered Paris from a young age, gained fame at the Salon, and became a favorite of Napoleon III. In this video, you will learn how a boy from the provincial Montpellier became a star of French painting, what trials stood in his way, and why he became the symbol of the academic school. Alexandre Cabanel was born in 1823 in Montpellier, the son of a carpenter. His childhood passed in the usual craft environment, but very quickly it became clear that he had a talent that went far beyond local opportunities. The boy spent hours drawing, and his abilities were noticed by the teachers of the local art school. In 1840, when he was only 17, he went to Paris, a city that was a dream for all young artists of that time. Here he enters the École de Beaux-Arts, the most prestigious art school in France. Cabanel enters the workshop of François-Edouard Picot, a student of Jacques-Louis David, and begins to absorb the classical traditions of French painting. His diligence and discipline quickly bear fruit. In 1845, when he was only 22, he received the main dream of every young artist, the Prix de Rome, the Roman Prize, which opened the doors to Villa Medici and gave him the opportunity to study in Italy for several years. Friends, please support us with likes and subscriptions for regular content, and thank you for watching us. This success was the real culmination of the life of the young artist. A boy from a provincial family turned into an artist who was talked about in the French capital. And ahead of him was Italy, a country where antiquity, the Renaissance, and the young artist's own search met, and where Alexandre Cabanel will finally form his style. After winning the Prix de Rome in 1845, the 22-year-old Alexandre Cabanel goes to Italy. It is here, in Rome, within the walls of Villa Medici, that he spends the next 5 years, and this time becomes for him a real school of art and inspiration. Imagine, a young man from Montpellier finds himself among the ancient ruins, in front of marble statues that remember the time of Caesar, among the frescoes of Raphael and the masterpieces of Michelangelo. Rome of the 1840s was a real living museum, and Cabanel enthusiastically studies everything that he sees around. He copies ancient sculptures, analyzes the compositions of Renaissance masters, while trying to find his own voice. During this period, his first serious works appeared, in particular, The Death of Moses, which immediately showed his attraction to the majestic biblical subjects, interpreted in the spirit of academic classicism. In Italy, Cabanel meets people who will influence his career. One of them was the collector Alfred Bruyas, a great connoisseur of art, who would become the patron and collector of his paintings. Such acquaintances helped the young artist not only to develop talent, but also to lay the foundation for further recognition in France. But most importantly, it is in Rome that his artistic style is formed. He combines the strict discipline of academic drawing with softer, poetic intonations that distinguish his work from the cold classicism of his teachers. His painting gradually acquires the harmony for which his French society will later appreciate: clean lines, elegant compositions, and the idealized beauty of the human body. It was here that the period of apprenticeship and the formation of the artist ended. Cabanel returned from Italy in 1850 not just as a gifted young man, but as a formed artist, ready to declare himself on the main stage of European art, the Paris Salon. And it is there that a real triumph awaits him. After returning from Italy in 1850, Alexandre Cabanel entered Parisian artistic life as a mature artist, ready to prove his skills to the most demanding public in Europe. His first major step was the painting The Death of Moses, presented at the Salon of 1852. Yes, this is exactly the picture that we have already considered earlier in the second section of our video, and if for some reason you missed it, you can go back and view it again because it is worth it. This picture immediately brought him a second-class medal and the attention of critics. This success was a signal a new name appeared in French art, which is worth remembering. In 1855, at the World Exhibition in Paris, Cabanel received the Legion of Honor. A few years later, there comes a moment that made him a real star. Imagine the hall of the Salon of 1863. Among hundreds of paintings, one work evokes enthusiastic exclamations and attracts all eyes. This is The Birth of Venus, a majestic canvas where an idealized female figure appears on the waves, surrounded by cupids. Emperor Napoleon III liked the painting so much that he immediately bought it for his personal collection. This moment was the culmination of Cabanel's career. He gained fame as the first painter of the empire. His work was commissioned by aristocrats. He becomes a member of the Academy and a professor at the École des Beaux-Arts. From now on, he is not just an artist, but a symbol of the academic art of France. And now, friends, imagine yourself among the public of that time. You are standing in front of the canvas, The Birth of Venus. How would you feel? Would you admire idealized beauty? Or perhaps it would seem to you that this perfection is too cold? Write in the comments how you see this picture today. I wonder if you will share the admiration of the French emperor, or, conversely, will be on the side of those critics who considered it too academic. For it is here, in the middle of the 19th century, that a great debate is born. What is more important, classical perfection or a new, bolder truth of art? And very soon the name Cabanel will be at the center of this discussion. After the triumph of The Birth of Venus, Alexandre Cabanel received not only the status of the first painter of the empire, but also an official position that allowed him to influence the future of French art. In 1864, he became a professor at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. It was one of the most prestigious posts in the art world, and now he had the opportunity to shape the taste of an entire generation. His workshop became a real forge of talents, where hundreds of young artists studied. Céret Neef, Jules Bastien-Lepage, Henri Regnault, Paul-Albert Besnard, Eugene Carrière. They will later go in different ways. Someone will remain closer to the academic tradition, someone will become an innovator. But they all took out of the Cabanel school discipline and attention to the ideal of form. However, the teaching activities of Cabanel were not limited to teaching. He was more than 17 times a member of the jury of the Paris Salon, the main exhibition of France. There he became one of the most influential arbiters of artistic life. And it was in this role that he was destined to go down in history not only as a master of the brush, but also as a symbol of academic art. In 1863, the decision of the jury, in which Cabanel also participated, to reject many works, among which were the canvases of Edouard Manet and other young artists, caused a real scandal. The public response was so strong that Emperor Napoleon III ordered a special exhibition, Salon de Refuses, Salon of the Rejected. It was there that Manet's Breakfast on the Grass was first shown, a picture that will become a symbol of the birth of modern art. Thus, Cabanel was in the center of the confrontation between the two worlds. On the one hand, he is an academician, true to the ideals of beauty, harmony, and ancient tradition. On the other, artists who sought to show modernity in all its truth, even if this truth seemed shocking. For Cabanel, this was a test. He remained faithful to his school, and at the same time his name became a symbol of resistance to new trends. It was this dispute between academism and modernism that erupted in the 1860s that determined the face of art in the second half of the 19th century. And although history later gave the palm to innovators, without Cabanel, it is impossible to understand why their victory was so significant. He was the force from which they repelled, and therein lies the paradox of his role. Defending academic ideals, he helped to accelerate the birth of new art. In the 1870s and 1880s, Alexandre Cabanel remained one of the most influential artists in France. He not only created paintings, but was also a professor at the École des Beaux-Arts, forming a new generation of artists. His students occupied leading places in the French art world, and it was through them that his academic style continued his life in the second half of the 19th century. During this period, he focused on large-scale canvases on ancient and biblical subjects. Later works include Phaedra and Cleopatra testing poisons on condemned prisoners. These paintings show that even at the end of his life, he remained faithful to the academic canons, the majestic beauty, harmony, and idealization of the human body. His art seemed to resist new trends, realism and impressionism, which by that time had already conquered the European scene. Cabanel worked consistently until the day before his death. On January 22, 1889, he suffered a severe asthma attack and was reportedly able that day to sign all his studio sketches and prepare his artistic treasures for their future appointment. On January 23, 1889, Alexandre Cabanel died in Paris. His departure became symbolic, as if the completion of an entire era of official academism in France. However, even in the 20th century, when academic art was considered obsolete, his name was not forgotten. And in our time, interest in his work returns. Exhibitions at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris and the Musée Fabre in Montpellier showed him not only as an official artist of the empire, but as a true master whose technique and ability to create idealized images are still admired. Friends, if you watched this video to the end, thank you very much. This means that you are really interested in the history of art and the fate of artists who created the world in which we live. I would be grateful if you support the channel. Put like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us grow, helps YouTube algorithms show videos to more people, and gives us the inspiration to create exciting new stories for you. See you in your next travels in the world of art.